Gazebo. Gazebo? Is it Gazebo? Gazebo? Gazebo. Gingham? Gingham. Gingham? Gazebo. Gazebo, gazebo. Gingham, 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 Gazebo, 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 Gingham, Gingham. However you want to pronounce them. These are great games. Gazebo and Gingham are the first two official entries in Bitewing Games' new travel line. And let me start off by saying that if these are the first two entries in this new line of games, they are a great harbinger of things to come. They're both simple and elegant and beautiful in a kind of utilitarian way that I find quite pleasing. But let's take a deeper look at both of them, starting with Gazebo.
Gazebo is a domino-laying puzzle game designed by Reiner Knizia. Each turn you'll lay tiles with colors down on the board, hoping to place as many of your gazebos on the tiles as possible. Connecting at least 2 tiles of the same color, that's a nook, which gets a gazebo. Connecting at least 5 tiles of the same color, that's a big nook, which gets a second gazebo. Connecting at least 5 tiles of the same color to a patio, that's a big nook with a second gazebo and an additional gazebo for the patio. But you have to be careful, since your opponents are trying to do the same thing and can kick some of your gazebos back to your supply. If an opponent connects their nook to your nook, whoever has the most tile spaces takes over the new big nook. Same sort of deal with patios, which lets players steal that space if they have more gazebos attached to it. Whichever player can clear out their supply of gazebos first wins.
It's a nice little puzzle, and it should feel probably more competitive than it is, but my biggest takeaway from Gazebo is that it actually feels quite nice and cozy and relaxing. You know, you are competing with other players to take claim of different gazebos, patios, and, there's a little bit of area control, but realistically, at the end of the day, my biggest experience playing this game was trying to find a nice little nook that I can carve out for myself and score this perfect chain combo. And I took stock of what the other players were doing, but it felt kind of just relaxing as I'm just trying to figure out what tile to lay down to get the most points. And you think Gazebo, is kind of nice and cozy. And you take a look at Gingham, and it's, you're playing as ants that are, just trying to steal sweets off a picnic blanket. And you would probably also think this one is nice and cozy. Wrong! Don't let this game's sweet exterior lead you astray. It is deliciously mean in the best way possible.
In Gingham, you play as an army of ants trying to connect sweets across a picnic blanket to score points. The sweet stacks end up moving as you connect them and give you opportunities to claim these treats to get some more points. The wonderful thematic catch here is that the only spots you can place your ants on the board are in the row or column that you place your queen ants outside of the grid. Each round, whoever is the first player chooses which side of the mat that everyone must play on. And this is important because down the middle of the board is a stitch that you cannot play past. So some of the rows on the board only have 1 or 2 spots you can choose to play on, and others have so many. The flip side is the player who chooses the row with the fewest options goes first next round, deciding what side of the board to play on.
This is genius. There's a huge opportunity cost in choosing a row with fewer options or choosing a row that is just not ideal for what you're trying to do. But to then be able to choose what side of the board everyone must play on next round is a huge boon and lets you control the game in a way that kind of makes up for the fact that you are giving yourself fewer options on this turn. And don't forget that I said this game is pretty mean.
Each turn you can choose to place your ant on an empty space or bump an enemy ant off the board, which will be devastating in some cases. Now, bumped ants do get to be placed on any empty space on the board at the end of the round, but that's not always a good consolation prize. The mechanics in this game also allow players to move sweet piles that you've been working towards connecting for many rounds in what feels like the blink of an eye, rendering your hard work wasted. The truth, though, is that just as you've been building your path, they've been building theirs, and you were probably too busy to notice or interfere.
The other thing that I find really neat about the design of this game is that the game ends when a player reaches a predetermined amount of points, which is 40 points if you're playing 2 or 3 player, or 32 if you're playing 4 player. But you don't know how many points everybody else has. And because of that, you just never have a really firm idea of whether or not you have the time left to do a really big move. And it's a little bit of pushing your luck to just think, how many turns do you realistically think you have left? And it works great. It's a nice little speed bump that this game forces you to reckon with. Now, some notes on both games that I feel it's important for you to know. The cloth maps look nice, but they're ergonomically challenging at times. A little bump knocks the tokens for both games askew. For Gingham, this is a bit more of an issue since the tall stacks are prone to falling. Both games also lack a bit of depth, and while I haven't reached this point yet, I can see them becoming stale if you put a ton of hours into them, though at that point you've probably gotten your money's worth already. The new mechanics introduced in the varied maps in Gazebo alleviate this a bit, but that's not the case in Gingham yet, even though I would say that I had a slight preference for that game initially. Another thing to note is that in the copies we were sent, there are a few deluxe upgrades that come for Kickstarter backers, and there are also a few nicer components that were not available when my copy was sent. So it's probably best to look at the Kickstarter or Bitewing's game for a more clear picture about what your copy could look like before purchasing. As mentioned earlier, these two games are the first entries in Bitewing Games' new travel line, and if these are the first two entries, I am very excited to see what's going to come next. These are the perfect games when I'm thinking of what do I want to bring that's simple and easy to understand, but also offers some strategic choices every round. And they're so rugged that you can just toss them into a hiking bag or a luggage bag, or even just strap it to your belt loop. Those are my thoughts, but let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. What are your favorite games that you can easily travel with? Are you excited for more games like this to be coming out? These games that are just hyper portable in a way that makes it very easy to bring board games with you wherever you want to be. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for being an awesome community. I have been Eric with the Cardboard.